Good evening. I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler, and tonight's presentation, latest video, I am titling this Snow Games. Why am I calling it Snow Games? I'll go ahead and elaborate on that a little bit later on in the presentation. Starting off with this opening slide tonight, I wanted just to really, and I'm sure everybody's heard about this, it's all over the news today and tonight, just the incredibly, brutally cold air that's situated over the upper Midwest. The image on the left is courtesy of the National Weather Service, showing the pinkish, the magenta colors, in this case purplish colors and the magenta colors. They generally indicate temperatures, or actually these are wind chills on the left-hand side, coldest wind chills, and this was at 12 noon Eastern time today. The wind chill in Chicago was negative 49 degrees. It's what it feels like between the combination of the extremely cold Arctic air and the wind. The combination of extremely cold air and wind creates wind chill factors. And look at Minnesota, negative 65 degree wind chill up near Minneapolis, St. Paul. Des Moines, Iowa, around negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit. That's what the wind chill, that's what it felt like outside. Extremely dangerous cold in the upper Midwest. And this was all associated with that polar vortex and the shift of the polar vortex sliding out of eastern Canada into the upper Midwest. And this is, if I were to show you a different map, you would just, it would amaze you in the fact that there is such a direct connection between the Arctic right down to the lower 48 to the upper Midwest. It is really phenomenal to watch how this is all unfolded since the stratospheric warming back in late December, and then the polar vortex split. There are some people bundled up on the right in that image there, just trying their best to stay warm in such brutally cold conditions. A lot of the businesses were closed back in the upper Midwest today, and people just weren't out and about. Wisely, they decided to stay home and just stay out of this kind of dangerous cold. So here it is. Here's where we're looking at a very cold period, very cold to start the forecast period. The image on the left was showing you current temperatures today, the 30th of January 2019, as of 12 noon Eastern time. Now these are air temperatures. That doesn't include the wind chills, which I showed here on the left-hand image. But these are actual air temperatures. Anywhere around negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit Minneapolis, negative 15 degrees Fahrenheit down Chicago. You can see the purplish colors are the coldest temperatures, and then the whitish areas are also extremely cold. But just it's a phenomenally cold air mass that descended straight directly down from the Arctic with the polar vortex shift. And the image on the right shows thickness values. Generally, the lower the value, the colder the temperature, the more dense the cold air, the more frigid the air mass. There's a 1,034 millibar high pressure system situated around Des Moines, Iowa. The polar vortex is noted with the text. Hopefully you can see that okay on your screens. But the polar vortex is situated basically just north of Lake Superior, just kind of crossing over the U.S.-Canadian border into Upper Peninsula part of Michigan. But just incredible cold, anywhere from the Rockies to the East Coast. But really the core of the most dangerous cold in association with the location of the polar vortex situated right there in the upper Midwest in Minnesota into the eastern North and South Dakota in Iowa and northern Illinois. It's really impressive air mass. The upper air pattern, this is the upper air pattern today, the 30th of January 2019. I'm showing you the 250 millibar charts this evening in a lot of the slides. This is courtesy of Tropical Tidbits, by the way, and you will see their tropicaltidbits.com above every one of the images here I'm using in the video tonight. Excellent, excellent site for all the model data you could ever want. Just please check it out if you get a chance. Anyway, I'm showing you the 250 millibar chart in most of the images tonight for the video. And why am I focusing on that level? 250 millibars is above 30,000 feet. It's greater than 30,000 feet above the ground on the surface of the Earth where we live. But what is so important about that level of the atmosphere is the jet stream. Generally, The jet stream is responsible for steering the weather. Weather moves generally from west to east in the northern hemisphere because of the jet stream. In this particular case, the reddish shadings, the purple shadings, that indicates the fastest moving ribbons of air within the jet stream axis. So we have some really fast moving dynamics in the upper atmosphere at, above 30,000 feet in association with this polar front jet. And then you have the polar vortex there in that white circular area situated just to the north of Lake Superior in eastern Canada on this particular time frame. This was at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the 30th of January 2019. Extremely cold air, obviously. I already hit that pretty hard, talked about that. But the jet stream is generally carving out a deep trough, a deep upper level trough. Right over the mid-Atlantic region, we have a purple shading, and that's indicating wind speeds on the order of 140 to 150 miles per hour. And so there's very fast moving air, a lot of energy in the upper atmosphere in association with this major crash of the Arctic air into the lower 48. So this is a classic setup for extremely cold conditions across the eastern United States. This is quite frequent when you see this kind of signature on the jet stream up at 250 millibars above 30,000 feet. So the coldest air of the season has spilled south as Arctic floodgates have opened. And we have higher upper level heights and upper level ridge situated out west off the west coast. So that's today. That's the 30th of January 2019. What is so amazing is the quick turnaround to milder temperatures. So now let's compare the jet stream images here. In this case, we have a deep trough. It's like a U-shaped pattern in the eastern United States and a upside down U over the western U.S., more of a upper level ridge. Now, let's fast forward this a little bit now to, this is actually Saturday evening, the 2nd of February. Look at this. What a change in the jet stream configuration. We got now upper level ridge building over the central U.S., eventually building and working its way east. So what does that mean? You see the reddish and purple colors there in the upper right-hand corner of the image. That's the actual axis of the jet stream, the polar front jet stream. It has gone way, way up in eastern Canada from today, look at this, from today all the way into eastern Canada by the evening of the 2nd, this Saturday, February 2nd, Groundhog Day. So retreating Arctic air mass shifts northeastward. We have an upper level ridge that's building. We have upper level height rises over the central and eastern United States by Sunday, February 3rd. What's that mean? That means that we're going to have surface high pressure that's going to be basically moving off the mid-Atlantic coast. Winds flow clockwise around these high pressure systems, and the winds are going to become more southerly over the eastern U.S. When we get southerly winds, that's what brings in warmer air, warmer temperatures. So this is going to allow a quick rebound. The upper level ridge, the jet stream retreating to the north, along with some southerly winds at the surface where we live, we're going to have a quick rebound of temperatures into the 50s for highs across the eastern United States by this Sunday already. Upper level trough in the western U.S. So now we have a digging upper level trough in the west, which is bringing cooler and wetter weather to the Pacific Northwest and down the coast in northern and central California. One thing I want to stress tonight, and Isaac Newton said this, right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. It's no different in weather. We have this extremely cold, plunging Arctic air mass, dangerous cold tonight on the 30th of January 2019 in the upper Midwest. That's being replaced by the exact opposite effect, a huge upper level ridge or rising heights or warmer air. So, we're going to have a big huge swath of cold air, Arctic air in the lower 48 replaced by something much warmer. And that backs up Newton's law: for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So yes, the science you did learn back in school, it does apply to weather in every possible way. Now, with the upper level ridge, over time it's going to slide to the east. We're moving on now to the period between the 3rd and the 6th of February. That polar front jet stream is still situated over eastern Canada, and you can see it on the image there, the upper right-hand portion of this map. So we got some really strong, fast-moving air up over Canada. We still have an upper-level ridge, and if you notice, there's a 993 millibar low-pressure system right around Kansas City, Missouri, on the morning of Monday, the 4th of February. And I put in there new storm or battle zone right there over the Midwest, where that green shading is. And generally, we have temperatures reaching possibly into the 70s for the Mid-Atlantic in the southeast U.S. In this time period, the 3rd to the 6th of February. We have a deep upper level trough, which is influencing the western U.S. So we have a 996 millibar low over Washington State, bringing another storm system, some precipitation, some wind into the Pacific Northwest by the morning of Monday the 4th, which this chart represents. And then we have an area of low pressure, again, that I had mentioned over the central U.S. And in that battle zone that I have there is separating the very mild, warm air here in the East Coast from the much colder air over the northern plains to the northwest. Storms derive energy off of major temperature contrasts or changes. And this is an example of a storm forming in the central U.S. as a result of the boundary between much colder air to the northwest over the Dakotas and much milder air to the southeast. So we are going to be very mild coming up across the eastern U.S. again. There's going to be a major rebound in temperature the period 3rd to the 6th of February. Now, things start to change on the 6th, the afternoon of the 6th of February, and especially the 7th of February. The upper level ridge over the eastern U.S. is breaking down. What do I mean by that? That means it's getting flatter. It's not as amplified. And we have this huge swath of jet stream energy. These maroon colors indicates fastly accelerating air moving through the jet core axis. And we're looking at winds of 120 to 140 miles per hour right across eastern Oklahoma into Arkansas, into western Kentucky. You notice on the left-hand image, I put much colder up over the Dakotas and Minnesota. I also have, there's a 1041 millibar high pressure system, Arctic high, situated up over Alberta and Canada. And we do have the milder air hanging on to the southeast, there off the southeast coast. But look at over on the right-hand image now. We have a purple shading color there. That's indicating wind speeds now accelerating within the jet axis above 140 miles per hour. And I talked about this on my last video. We have something embedded within the jet stream, that fastly accelerating moving ribbon of air that's known as a jet streak. And the left front, if I were to draw a plus symbol right down the middle of this jet streak, the left front quadrant and the right rear quadrant are the favorable locations for storm development. So in this case, on the image on the right, the left front, if I were to divide this up into 4 quadrants, that left front portion is situated over Ohio into Pennsylvania, and the right rear quadrant is situated over Arkansas into western Tennessee. So that's where you would expect to find more favorable storm development if that was the case. But we do have a trough that's developed across the eastern U.S. Moving ahead now. Let's keep moving ahead. Now we're moving on. I'm showing you charts on the 12th of February, and then the right-hand image is the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. I have rising heights in the western U.S. and lowering heights in the east. So we're having colder air moving back into the central and eastern United States. So the mild spell between the 3rd and the 6th of February is not going to last a whole long amount of time. It's not going to be a forever type warmth. So I know some of you out there, including myself, I was looking at the models a couple days ago and I was thinking, ooh, after this cold Arctic shot, it looked to me like winter was over. But don't say that, because there's still some more cold to come. There's still a lot of cold over Canada, and this jet stream is going to once again become more of a trough configuration over the east and a ridge configuration over the west. So we still have winter left. This is the Arctic Oscillation Forecast update from the Climate Prediction Center. Initially, we got this really sharply negative Arctic oscillation here in the first, basically it looks like the first 4 to 5 days of February, a sharply negative Arctic oscillation. And then it's going to rise up to a neutral condition right around the 8th to the 10th of February, and then it's going to drop again back down negative. And again, why do I show you this? Is because Arctic oscillations, when they go negative, that typically yields colder temperatures and favors a upper level trough, a dip in the jet stream across the eastern United States. Now, with teleconnections, Arctic oscillation is an example of a teleconnection. There's other teleconnections that can offset this effect. So if I'm looking at this Arctic oscillation forecast and I'm noticing a strongly negative Arctic oscillation the first few days of February, you might be asking yourself, wait a minute, it's supposed to be cold with a trough in the eastern United States. However, there are other teleconnections that we have to pay attention to, especially those across the Pacific Ocean. That would be the Madden-Julian Oscillation. And Madden-Julian Oscillation is fairly amplified, and it's sitting in phase 6 right now, and it's going to kind of loop around. This is the latest forecast, loop around to a phase 7. Now, European model, and I'm not showing that here to you, but it's showing a phase 8, which favors much colder temperatures in the east. As a review, January, February, and March, look on the right-hand image here. Phase 7, you see the orangish colors. Phase 6, see that red color. See the yellowish, orangish colors in the eastern U.S. for phases 6 and 7. That typically favors warmer temperatures in the eastern U.S. when it's phases 6 and 7. Okay, so just because we have a sharply negative Arctic oscillation, which would favor cold in the eastern U.S., sometimes other teleconnections can actually offset each other, and the Madden-Julian Oscillation may be doing that. We're in the warmer, milder phases of the Madden-Julian Oscillation, and it's very possible it could be offsetting the impacts of the Arctic Oscillation here. So, and I kind of mentioned that in my winter forecast video that I made back in the fall. That's known as destructive interference, when the teleconnections are not lining up with each other. So just like an ocean wave, if you have two waves kind of blowing, coming at each other from different directions, one wave may actually cancel out the effects of the other wave on the ocean surface. So now let's take a look at the polar vortex update. Obviously, this has been in the news like crazy the last week. It's been all over the TV because of the extremely dangerously cold temperatures in the upper Midwest. We're taking a look at the GFS model, by the way, in both instances here. I'm showing you a GFS image of the polar vortex for the 6th of February on the left, and then I'm going out in time to just around Valentine's Day on the right-hand image. If you notice, the purple's the blue color shading, that indicates colder temperatures. The reddish color is generally over the polar areas, and that's where that stratospheric warming occurred. And you will notice with time, look at the image on the right, compare the red image on the left to the red image on the right, and you'll notice that the area is starting to shrink in size. So things are somewhat trying to get back to normal in the stratosphere over the polar areas. But also, I want you to pay attention to the blue shadings, because the polar vortex kind of elongates, according to the latest model here, from the northeast to the southwest. And when it elongates that way, like a stretched rubber band, it kind of directs the coldest air. It basically directs the coldest air to go in certain locations. So the image on the left is showing how the coldest air is backed up to western Canada with the polar vortex. And that's around the 6th of February, when the east coast is really mild. But then look what happens over time. The polar vortex, again, it's like a stretched rubber band. It changes shape. And you'll notice now that the coldest air, the purple shadings, are now over the northeast, over New England again, eastern Canada into the northeast. So it's no coincidence that we're having some milder temperatures coming in on the east coast here. We're going to have a break from this Arctic, after this Arctic shock comes in. And a lot of that has to do with how this colder air is pivoting, how the polar vortex is reorientating or reshaping itself. So I just want to give you an update on how the polar vortex is looking, and where the coldest air associated with it is going to be. On the image on the right, again, we see that the temperatures are starting to recover. They're starting to cool. The area of warmer, above normal stratospheric temperatures over the polar areas is starting to diminish more and more. So here is the big question. I called this video tonight Snow Games. I know there's a lot of people that want a good snowstorm. I know if you're right here on the coast in Southeast Virginia, you definitely do. I know there's a lot of people that just want one good snow. And you know what? It's just not happened. Last night we had Arctic air. I had a front coming in. We had a little ribbon of precipitation that was right ahead of the front. The Arctic air could not catch up to it, so it stayed a cold rain last night. So where is the snow in the east? What I'm showing you here, image on the left, current snow depth. Heaviest snow on the ground right now is across the upper Midwest. You see northern Illinois, eastern Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, into Minnesota and eastern North and South Dakota, and then a lot of snow over eastern Canada. There's a lot of snow up over Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, into the northeast portions of New York State. And you have a little bit of snow that kind of comes down the spine of the Appalachian Mountains. That's the current snow depth right now. Anywhere where it's white, the ground's bare. Okay? Even if it's gray, it's only an inch or two of snow. All right, you got to get to those pinkish shadings to really get some more significant snow, like 8 to 10 inches that are sitting on the ground. The image on the right shows the latest European snowfall forecast from the 30th of January to the 9th of February 2019. And I put a little stamp in there, a little text. I said no significant storms along the East Coast. And the European is not showing anything. So right now, according to the European model, we don't really have any coastal lows expected to develop. That's subject to change, obviously. But as of right now, the snowfall forecast, the heaviest snow stay up over the northern plains and across eastern Canada again. And that's to be expected because we're going into a fairly mild pattern across the eastern U.S. with high temperatures in the 50s and 60s and even the 70s from Virginia south. So we wouldn't expect a whole lot to accumulate over this time period based on the position of the jet stream upcoming. Here's the GFS Snowfall Forecast, and this runs out also from the 30th of January to the 9th of February 2019. The gray shading colors generally indicate new snow on the order of 1 to 2 inches. There's a little bit of blue there in Indiana and Ohio. That's a couple inches of new snow. But again, it agrees with the European model. It's showing you where the pinkish colors and purple colors are. That's the heaviest snow. And it's staying basically along the U.S.-Canadian border. There are a couple shots of snow into Minnesota with upcoming storm tracks. But we've had a winter pretty much dominated by storm tracks going up through the Midwest. And that's just not a favorable pattern for snow across the Mid-Atlantic. All right, so let's move into a quick discussion on favorable storm tracks for winter storms. What are we looking for here in the Mid-Atlantic? Okay, I'm showing you an image here on the left that's storm type A, and an image on the right is storm type B, and I also have a storm type C. Okay, the storm type A, and by the way, these graphics are courtesy of GlenAllenWeather.com, but the dates of some major snowstorms with type A systems is on the left-hand image here. So you see, for example, storm type A, February 11th, 1964, got a snowstorm in the Mid-Atlantic. February 9th and 10th, 1973. The big one, March 2nd and 3rd, 1980. That was a big, heavy-hitting snowstorm in the Mid-Atlantic. February 6th and 7th, 1984. It just goes down. Even around Christmas Eve, 1989. It's very hard to get a white Christmas around these parts, especially in the Mid-Atlantic. It's not really a very good probability for white Christmases here. But so with storm type A, the blue arrows indicate the position of the polar front jet stream. Right? I have a weak subtropical jet that's supplying my moisture down along the Gulf of Mexico. And then I got this weak surface low pressure that forms on the tail end of a cold front. It forms right off east of Florida, and then it goes up the coast. The huge black L indicates the path of the upper level low, or the upper level energy, which helps intensify the storm at the surface. The black circular area here in the image on the left, storm type A, shows you the threat area for the significant snow. We had a type A type system in Hampton Roads last winter in January. This is a very favorable track, and in eastern North Carolina and southeast Virginia, we got nailed. Check out storm type B. The configuration of the polar front jet stream indicated by the blue arrow. Notice it's a little bit flatter, more west to east. It's not as great of an amplified trough on the East Coast. Storm types B, examples for dates, different snowstorms, winter storms are on the left again. This is also, storm type B is also known as a modified Miller B type storm, where you have an area of high pressure that's anchored over the eastern Great Lakes, typically around Michigan. That clockwise flow around that high pressure system is sending in that low level cold air that we need. The area of low pressure is forming right along the Gulf Coast, okay? and it moves up the east, off the southeast coast and off the mid-Atlantic. All right, so a lot of times you'll get a low. Another scenario brings a low from eastern Kansas across into the Tennessee Valley, and then that low transfers its energy to a newly developed coastal low off of Cape Hatteras. You again have a weak subtropical jet there, represented by the red arrow moving across Florida. So the black area there, the black outlined area indicates the area of the heaviest winter precip. And again, the mid-Atlantic is smack dab in the middle of it. Okay, but the high pressure system's got to be the northwest, like this shows as storm type B, where you get that cold air funneling down and the low levels of the atmosphere. So there cannot be any warm-ups. Now, move on to storm type C. This is another storm type, a storm track. This occurred in multiple storms, March 3rd to 4th, 1960, December 11th, 12, 1960, February 26, 27, 93, February 17, 18, 2003, and so on. It's all there on the left, all the dates if you want to take a look at these storms. Google those dates, Mid-Atlantic storms, and I'm sure you get even more detailed information. So in this case, with storm type C, we got the high pressure system, again, situated to the northwest. It slides a little bit further east over Maine. Okay, so you get more of a northeasterly wind flow in this case. And in this case, it's going to produce mostly a cold rain along southeast Virginia with a storm type C. But regardless, you got the subtropical jet again. You got area of low pressure forming over Kansas. It kind of just basically moves from west to east as that blue arrow, the polar front jet, steers that low pressure system all the way just pretty much west to east. And you get a significant area of winter precip. It's a little bit further north with a storm type C. You get rain along the coast of Virginia and North Carolina. But overall, the theme, again, image on the right shows 18,000 feet. What are you looking for? You are looking for colder temperatures, colder and lower heights. So you have a deep trough in the eastern United States in the upper levels of the atmosphere, which is providing that upper level energy and the colder temperatures necessary to support the surface low pressure system. Okay? So I thought I would just kind of throw that up there tonight. Now we're going to roll right into the long-range final thoughts. I hope you find this very interesting. Now we're going to have episodes of cold air, and they are set to invade the eastern United States in the long range. So we're looking, especially around the 8th of February, we're going to get back to cold air again across the east. Extremely cold today, the 30th of January 2019, into the morning of the 31st of January 2019. Temperatures across southeast Virginia down to 18 degrees. We know that it's crazy cold up in the upper Midwest. Temperatures are negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit overnight tonight into the 31st of January. Just really, really cold. But it's moving out quickly. After the extremely cold air on 31 January, the temperatures quickly rebound and things become really mild quick. We're going to have rising upper level heights across the eastern United States. And I'm throwing that in there. Madden-Julian oscillation, is it playing a role? I think it is. I think this Madden-Julian oscillation, the warmer phases, is somewhat overpowering the negative Arctic oscillation. And that's why we're going to a warmer period across the east. Okay, so colder out west with the upper level trough, warmer in the east with the upper level ridge, mainly between the 3rd and the 6th of February, even into the 7th of February. You know, some of the models are bringing the colder air in slower, so this might be off by a day or two. Now, we are expecting temperatures in the 50s, 60s, and even the 70s across the mid-Atlantic, the 4th to the 7th of February. Now, we know it'll be in the 50s. It'll rebound to the 50s on Sunday the 3rd. And then the 4th to the 7th, it really gets mild. We got strong southerly winds up the eastern seaboard. We'll have storm systems going up to the Midwest again. So here are my main questions again. I know all you snow lovers are out there like, hey, when are we going to get some good snow in the east? You know, it's not been a really good winter if you really like snow, has it? Well, here are my golden questions, and I mentioned this in my last video as well. Will the subtropical jet promote a more active southern storm track? We have seen time and time again this winter with the configuration of the upper air pattern, a lot of Midwestern storm tracks. So will we get more active further south? Will there be more energy available further south? Will the timing of the cold air coming in match up with the moisture and with possible storm development along the East Coast? That is a big, big golden question that only time is going to tell us that. We're going to get colder, so that's a good thing, right? We're getting really cold right now. We're going to go into a mild spell for about 4 days across the eastern U.S., and then it's going back to getting colder again, okay? So based on the orientation of the jet stream, we're getting more of a trough. We're getting stronger, colder Canadian high pressure systems to work their way southeast, and that's going to help funnel in colder air here at the surface, at the ground where we live. So we know the colder air is going to come back. Now, we're not expecting the cold to be as cold as what we're currently experiencing here across the eastern U.S. So the cold is going to come back, but it's not going to be the kind of crazy, incredible cold we're seeing now on the 30th of January and 31st. It will be cold enough for snow for sure, but just a matter of, can we get the subtropical jet, southern energy going, get an increase in low pressure systems further down south along the Gulf of Mexico, along stalled boundaries. Can we get those to go up the East Coast? Or are we going to just be cold and dry? Are we going to have these Canadian highs come down, high pressure systems come down, and just dry us up? And then by the time moisture comes in, high pressure moves off and our winds go to the south and things warm up. So really, timing of the cold air outbreaks along with moisture, along with storm potential, that's what we're really looking at. Now, the GFS model was showing hints of a more active southern disturbances over the next 10 to 12 days. European, not so much. European is not showing any coastal storm developments over the next 10 days. No southern lows according to the European, 12Z today, 12Z model run. There's your forecast of snow on the right that I already showed you and went over. There's just not much up the East Coast, is there? I see a lot of grays even going all the way up into Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut. So the heaviest snows just aren't there for the East Coast, according to the European. But again, the beauty about weather models is it can change. Now, check us out. Check us out on Spot On Weather for future forecasts and updates. If we see something possibly developing, a coastal low, we got an Arctic air moving into the area, we'll be sure to give updates. I'll make some more videos on that, special videos for winter weather, upcoming winter weather and impacts. But overall, the pattern is, it's kind of going up and down right now. The temperatures they're just kind of going up and down. Newton said it best: for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So we got this huge trough digging deep into the eastern U.S. now, going to be replaced by a huge upper level ridge, which is going to result in much milder temperatures. We do expect the cold front to move through right around next Thursday. That would be the 7th. So the evening of the 7th of February, the next shot of cold, some Arctic air will move back into the area. It won't be as severe as the current cold, but there's going to be a lot of battling going on initially in the Midwest with the jet stream energy, with the jet streak favorable for storm formation. That eventually is going to shift to the East Coast. And I really appreciate everybody watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the storm tracks as well. Just a little, what we need, the different types of configurations of the jet stream, how the systems form at the surface, the low pressures, and where they are in relation to us in the Mid-Atlantic as they move up the coast. So that is all I've got tonight for Spot On Weather. We do appreciate you viewing us, and we really hope you find these videos fascinating and exciting. The world of weather is a fascinating, exciting place, and it's always changing, and that's the beauty of it. All right, that wraps things up. Spot On Weather. If we're not spot on, we're not doing it right. Have a great Wednesday evening, everyone.